Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Proud Black Woman Show. Thank you so much for staying with me all this while. It's been a fantastic 2022. I think this is the fourth show of the year, and it's been going great. I've been bringing you amazing guests, fantastic guests, and all that good stuff. So, what are we talking about today? I'm sure you can see from the name of our guest that is going to be something that's very, very controversial. A lot of people want to know, a lot of people want to find out, how can I get my own home, especially in this market right now going on in the GTA, in Ontario. Generally, it's been crazy. And people that are newcomers to Canada, people that are self-employed, it's been so difficult for them to get into the market. So that's the topic for today. And that's why I have my guest. Before I introduce my guest, you know how we do. Rep yourself in the comments section. That's how we mark attendance on this show. If you are watching us from Canada, what city are you watching us from? Leave it in the comment section. If you are not here in Canada, what country are you watching us from? Please also, represent yourself in the comment section so that way I can know who attended and I can give you a shout out every once in a while. So how are you doing today, Dammy?
I was just trying to go YouTube on my phone. I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited to chat all things home ownership, all things mortgages, which I'm super passionate about. So thank you very much for having me on your channel
Thank you
and just
so
looking forward to chat.
much. That's fantastic. So before we dive into this, we have to just bring in our little drama, because I like a little bit of drama, and I have this intro that I always put in. So bear with us, stay tuned, and we'll be back in a second. Hi, Samantha Francine Glass. Thank you so much for joining the show. I appreciate you. So now talking about everything home ownership. First thing is we have a lot of people that are newcomers to Canada, as I said. So for them to be able to get their first home, it seems like a mountain that cannot be surmounted. For that reason, how many years do you think a person has to be in Canada for them to start planning to own their own home?
Don't wait years. That's the first thing I would say. I think when you are new to Canada, there's so many things that you're focused on. You're trying to understand the culture. You're trying to find a job. You're trying to like get assimilated in the city, settle down. So for a lot of people, they are not immediately thinking home ownership. But I always say like the moment you come in, you should at least know what the expectations are because that would guide a lot of your decisions on what type of credit card you are getting. Are you getting a car loan? So I say immediately that you know that okay at some point over the next 1 or 2 years or even over the next 6 months I'm looking to buy a home. You should at least have a conversation with a mortgage professional so that you know what to expect, and a lot of times that would guide you. I've had clients that bought as soon as 3 months into coming to Canada, and I've had some clients that waited 1 year. I've seen people 5 years, so it really varies and it really depends on your own personal situation.
Okay, that's really good. So for people that don't know, what are the important things that you need to put together if you're looking to buy a home? I know you talked about credit history just now, and I know a lot of people are thinking about finances and job and things like that.
Can you give me 1 second? I'm so sorry. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, no problem. So thank you so much for joining, everybody joining us today. We're going to be talking about all things mortgages, all things first-time home buyers. What are the perks of being a first-time home buyer? Also for people that are business owners, I've gotten this a lot of time because if you don't know, I'm also a real estate lawyer, and I've had opportunity to work with Dammy for a few files, and she's really good. So maybe you might want to hit up after this to talk more in depth to your own peculiarity. So yeah, my last question was things that you need to put together to be able to finances is there. Some people think about jobs. So what are the things like we need to put together?
Okay. So in Canada,
I
there are
think
some
you're
things that you need
frozen.
to do. I'm frozen. Oh no. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I'm not sure if okay, it's probably my internet connection. In Canada, the reason we even talk about mortgages, right? Before you get a place is because homes in Canada typically range for 500,000 to over $1 million. So a lot of times, if you don't have a mortgage, it means that you need to save for 500,000, which for a lot of people, that's a long time coming and you don't want to be paying rent. So that's where mortgages come into place to bridge that gap. So you can get into a home now and pay that amount over time. So before someone gives you a mortgage, you have to qualify for the mortgage. You're not going to just get a mortgage without having income or down payment or good credit history. I think that those are the three most important things. When a lender, same way as if you are looking to borrow your friend money, you want to see if they are likely to pay you back. And that's pretty much what banks and all our lenders do,
Exactly.
right? The first thing they look at is one, based on your previous commitments, did you pay back on time? And did you even pay back at all? And that's where your credit history comes in. That's why your credit card is very, very important. Credit card is not just free money. The way you treat your credit card really will determine like your credit worthiness over the next at least 5 years until you really figure out what's going on. So the first thing they look at is your credit history. And that's you can build your credit history by getting a credit card. That's the simplest way. When you are new to Canada, a lot of times you don't have 1 or 2 years credit history um, for the bank or the lender to evaluate good credit worthiness. So in that case, they consider alternate credit requirements. So they want to look at your rent. Rent is one of the most important one. So typically would require a letter from your landlord saying that you've been paying your bills over time on time, and you also would look at your bank statement. So that's one, and any bills that you may have, like your phone bill, hydro, are you paying auto insurance? So that's one of the ways for new to Canada you can demonstrate good credit worthiness without necessarily having a long credit history in Canada. The second requirement is from your income perspective. Typically, new to Canada, they want to see you working at least minimum 3 months full-time job, and they use that to determine if like you have stable source of income coming in and if you'll be able to meet up with the mortgage payments. So that's the second. We want to see what type of job are you working? Is it contract or is it full-time? And they also look at the industry. Like, is it an industry that is in high demand that you're likely to replace your job even if you do lose it? The third thing is your down payment. So without mortgage insurance, like the standard is 20% down, but in Canada, we have a government program that's pretty much the government is standing behind you and acting as your guarantor with the lender to say, even though this person doesn't have 20%, we are insuring that loan. So new to Canada, you can get a mortgage with as low as 5% or 10% down payment. So that's just a summary.
That's fantastic.
But those are the three most important things in your mortgage application to
Mortgage
demonstrate
application,
that you
and
can qualify for the mortgage.
that's really good. And for people that are able to pay 20%, that's good. But a lot of people are not able to pay 20%, and let's say they're in that 5% range. How what are the things that the bank will consider? Because I've heard situations where even though people have money in their account, the bank wants to know how long has it been in your account? Did you borrow that money? Are you using a loan? Things like that. So what are the important, because I don't want to just people to just hearsay. I want them to hear from an agent that knows exactly what she's doing. And I've worked with you in the past. I know that you're one of the best out there. So if you're thinking to save up for that down payment, how long should it be in your account and what are the things to consider?
Okay. So if you are saving up for your down payment, say through like your salary, it doesn't need to be in your account for a long time, as long as you can show the source. When the money has been there for at least 90 days and it's reasonable, then you don't need to demonstrate like the source. So that's just one of the things that they look at. When I say you don't need to demonstrate the source, it's not that, let's say you come to me and you say, oh, I have $2 million and you're 18. Of course, they're going to ask you, even if it's been there for 90 days, they're going to ask you, how did you get that money? So it still has to be like reasonable. But typically, for the average applicant, they want to see the money in there for at least 90 days. If it's less than 90 days, like if you have deposits coming in, then they want to see how that money got into your account. If it's coming from salary, that's easily demonstrable. But if it's let's say all of a sudden you have a $5,000 deposit 2 days before you put in an offer, of course we're going to need proof of that because they want to see if it's borrowed or if it's truly your funds, or if it's a gift. Gifts are allowed as down payment. In that case, it needs to be from an immediate family member, and they have to write a letter saying that it's not borrowed and the money is a gift.
Okay. So we have a question here.
Okay, go ahead.
So we have a question. I said you can have your rent payments reported to Equifax. Would that be better than that from a letter from your landlord?
Okay, good question. Regardless of if it reports to Equifax or not, we still would need a letter from your landlord and your bank statement showing the money coming out. But it's a good thing to have rent payments reporting to your Equifax because it means that you are building your credits. So it has advantages, but for this particular purpose, we still need a letter from your landlord and your bank statement showing the money.
I didn't even know you could do that, report to Equifax, and that's a good one. That's good to know. Okay, we have another question. Said, what if the person is coming to Canada to build a business here and is self-employed? Would your numbers change?
Good question. So if you are self-employed and you are new to Canada, if you want to buy within first 2 years, you need 20% down. There's no way around it. Typically the reason is for self-employed, they don't use your letter of employment as your proof of income. They use your 2-year past average, right, as your proof of income. So when you are new to Canada, you start a new business, you've not demonstrated that the business is sustainable, and like a lot of self-employed people know, your income can tend to fluctuate a lot. So that's why for self-employed, you cannot have a letter of employment. So they base it off of your history of income in your business, and the way they demonstrate that is 2 years average of your employment. That said, there are other lenders that will still lend to you as a self-employed. It's just that those lenders by law, they require minimum 20% down payment.
That's good. So I believe the next question might be for me. Samantha said, also, when someone has a large amount of money, does the real estate lawyer need to confirm where the money came from? For all the files I've had to work on, I haven't had any reason to check anybody's account, because at the end of the day, we are the last part of the transaction. So it is our own business is to register, close the deal and all of that. I've never had to investigate anybody's proof. Probably that would be the mortgage agent doing that, or the bank doing that. So I hope that answers the question, but the real estate lawyer has nothing to do with verifying the money in your account.
Yeah, I've had to add to that question, I've had situations where the money has been there longer than 90 days, the lender wants some type of information of how did the person come about this money. So sometimes we say it's savings. If you have a business back home that generated that income for you, we can provide that as a comment. But typically, it's unlikely that they would ask you to demonstrate the source if it's been in your account longer than 90 days.
You talked about gift the other time, and you said the gift has to be from an immediate family member. And in that situation, they have to write a letter. So my question would be, for example, let's say your parents are not in Canada. Let's say your parents are in Europe or they're in another country. In that situation, does just a letter suffice, or do they have to show a proof of that income being sent to you, or where their own bank statement where they sent that income to you?
Yeah. Okay. It varies. That's a question that it varies from lender to lender. But yes, you can have your parents from back home send you a gift, and you can use that for down payment. So the criteria for that is, of course, they have to write a gift letter showing that it's a gift and that money is not going to be payable back. And then the second criteria is that they need to send, it has to be traceable. So it needs to be a clean wire transfer from their account into yours. Those two things allows us to be able to use that as down payment. If the money is not coming from the US, we want the money to be in Canada at least 30 days before your closing. Okay. So the money needs to be on Canadian in a Canadian account at least 30 days before. So yes, the short answer is yes, you can get money from gifts from your parents back home, but you need to just be careful what the laws are so that you know if it's acceptable or not. And you can, working with your real estate agent, you can make sure like your closing date is fixed in such a way that there will be no issues using that money. And I would say talk to your mortgage agent or your mortgage advisor first around the rules of if they can use that money or not, because that's one thing that actually varies from lender to lender. There's no uniform rule.
So let's talk about pre-approvals. So
Yeah.
for you to get a mortgage, you have to do like some pre-approval and all of that. The first question would be, is it better to go with your bank, or is it better to go with a real estate, with a mortgage agent to get that pre-approval?
Okay, I'm going to be biased, forgive me, but let me start with what's the difference between going to your bank and going to a mortgage agent. So when you go to your bank, you are literally going to a mortgage advisor that works in a particular bank. They know, based on their own policies, they're advising you on how much you qualify for and like what their rates are. When you go to an independent mortgage agent, they are looking at all the lenders in the channel and all the ones that they have a relationship with, and they are seeing if you qualify. Even as a mortgage agent, we work with TD, Scotiabank, so you can still work with a mortgage agent and still have a mortgage with your bank, depending on who your bank is. So it's not like mutually exclusive that for me to get a mortgage from my bank, if I bank with TD, I always have to go to TD. No, you can actually go through a mortgage agent as well. The only difference is that with one, you have one option, and with the other, you have multiple options. I think that it's better to go with the mortgage agents, and the reason for that is one, there's so many mortgage products out there. There are tons of policies, even within like two banks, they are not exactly the same. So even beyond the rate, there's like little terms that you might not know is important, but they're actually really important. So if you are working with an agent, you're not saying just get me a mortgage based on only this one policy. You're like, these are some of the things that are important to me. Can you get me a mortgage that fits my criteria? So the main advantage of working out with an agent is really like options from rates, options from policies, and also you have a constant person that is working with you, like even beyond that mortgage closing. Like a lot of my clients, I'm still working with them because it's more like it's like having a mortgage advisor regardless of which lender we are placing you with, versus if you were to go with a bank and you move to CIBC, or you move from TD to CIBC, you're not going to have one constant person as your mortgage advisor, right? It's going to change depending on where you are.
So thank you for that. So, now the second leg of that question will be, how early should you go to your mortgage agent or the bank? Is it at the beginning of the process, or is it when you've started looking for the home?
The moment you think I want to buy a house at some
Are you
point
there?
in my life, definitely talk to a mortgage agent, even if you're not ready yet. The reason is, like I mentioned, sometimes you feel like, okay, now I have a job and now I have savings. I know I can get a mortgage. Sometimes there's something that you didn't even think about. So I always say that the moment you feel like there's a chance I might get a home within the next 1 to 2 years, at least do like it doesn't have to be like credit check or anything. It's just like a discovery call of what you need, what kind of budget should be looking at, how much you be saving, what do you need to pay attention to based on your credit. So that's more like of the information gathering. Then when you work with that person, or so typically I will give the person like a plan. This is what you need. And based on what you've told me, you'll be ready in 6 months, you'll be ready in 3 months, you could be ready in 2 years, depending on that person's scenario. So at least you have something to work towards. So once you are then ready, based on what that criteria is, you then go back again to your mortgage agent and you then say, okay, now I'm ready. Now I want a formal pre-approval. Once you have a formal pre-approval, at that point, you then connect with your real estate agent, you then start looking at homes. But you should never look at homes, or you should never put in an offer. Let me not say you should never look at homes, because everybody, I think with social media and all the real estate website, everybody is shopping, even if you are not technically in the market. So you can look at homes, but when I say don't like book an appointment or put in any offers when you don't have a pre-approval, because that means that you might not be able to honor the contract, and that puts your deposit or even being at the risk of a loss. Yeah.
I've seen situations like that where people go look at a house just because they assume the mortgage process takes like a short while. Because the thing is, when they go online, they say get pre-approved in less than 2 minutes. So in that, they have that mindset that is something that if I go get a house, I can come back and they get a pre-approval. The thing is, you might be able to get the approval, but then the amount that will be approved might be way less. And then that puts you under stress, and then you're running around trying to get the rest of the money. And I've seen situations where people actually lost their deposit because they were not able to get approval until the closing date. And that it's nothing to joke about, because at the end of the day, it's your hard-earned money that you've probably saved for 3 years, and then you put that as a down payment, as a deposit, and then you lose it. So now somebody is also asking a question here. She said, does the amount of investment you have outside of Canada drastically decrease your chances in Canada to get a mortgage? That's the first leg. Then I know investors in Canada who have over a certain amount of units are high risk and have a harder time to get funding. What are your thoughts? So I'll just leave it on the screen for a little bit.
Okay, let me answer the first part of the question. Does the amount of investment you have outside of Canada drastically? No, it doesn't reduce your risk of getting a mortgage. What could reduce your risk of getting a mortgage is if you also have a lot of debts or a lot of loans outside of the country. But your investment outside of the country does not affect your chances of getting a mortgage in any way. So can you put the question back up? I know investors in Canada who have over a certain number of units. I'm not sure amount of units. What do you mean by that? If you could just clarify. Do you mean number of units as in number of properties?
Probably units of property or something.
Yeah, if it's number of properties, the only way it would affect you again is if you have lots of debt also outside of the country. If you have, so typically, even though you're applying for a mortgage in Canada, you're not supposed to just include only your debts in Canada. You're supposed to include your debts or out from all over the world. So yes, if you have a lot of properties outside of Canada, that means possibly you also have a lot of mortgage debts. By the time we include that, yes, that can affect your chances. But owning properties outside of the country alone does not mean that you cannot get a mortgage in Canada, or it doesn't decrease your chances.
Yeah, so she's asking that, do you work with international investors and do not plan to reside in Canada?
Yes, there are investors that they are buying properties in Canada and they're just renting it, because one of the good things about Canada is that we have a very stable currency, and from a lot of developing countries we don't have that. So yes, there are investors that they're not necessarily planning to move in here, and of course we have a famous housing market, so a lot of people want to get into that. Yes, you can buy a property in Canada even if you're a foreign resident as an investor, and you could be qualified for a mortgage as well.
So one thing I would just add to that is you have to realize that if you're an investor, there's taxes that you have to pay. So for a lot of people, and I also know for the down payment too, it could be way higher. So I remembered when I just came to Canada, I think it was like 35% that you have to pay down payment with the bank. I think it was BMO Bank then. At the same time, there's another 15% that you have to pay. This is like non-refundable tax, because if you are not resident of Canada, you have to pay that 15%. So you have to bear that in mind as well if you're going to be purchasing a house in Canada. A lot of people that I've seen, like files that have come across my table, it's usually people that want to buy like without the funding. They already have the money. $1 million for the house, we're paying the entire 1 million. So even with that, they still have to pay for that taxes. But I don't know, the funding will be, maybe you'll be answering the question from that part.
Yes, so you're right. Foreign residents typically need 35% down payment. There are some private lenders that will take 20%, but I would say standard is about 35%. Yes, you have to pay 15% tax, but the 15% is only if you're buying within the Greater Toronto Hamilton region. At least as of today, who knows, that could change next year. So if you're buying in Toronto, Hamilton, Peterborough, like that region, yes, you have to pay 15%. And if you don't plan to ever live in Canada, that means there's no possibility of you getting that money back. But like, for example, London, Windsor, like Ottawa, there's still a lot of places you can buy in Canada without paying the taxes. Okay. At least as of today, but that could change anytime, with governments and
exactly. Laws change all the time. So now talking about first-time home buyers, there are perks that comes with that. One of them is because everybody, when you buy, just in case nobody has bought a house or they're in the process, you might have heard about that incentive where the land transfer tax, you get up to a maximum of 4,000 refund. So for investors, just to answer Samantha as well, if you're not going to be living in that house, you're going to be renting, you're not going to be privy to get that $4,000 of refund, right? But for first-time home buyers, if that's the first time you're buying a house, you'll be getting that $4,000 rebate. So my question to you, Dami, would be, if you have a house, let's say outside of Canada, and you're here, and you want to buy a house here, are you still regarded as a first-time home buyer?
For that rebate, you are not. So that particular rebate is if you own the home anywhere in the world. So if you declare that you own the home anywhere in the world, then you're not eligible. But I think you will be better to answer that question. But at least from me actually asking and calling, that's kind of the answer I've heard. I've actually heard like differing answers. I've called like some officials and they've told me it's first time in Canada. I've also called some people, they said first time in the world. So it depends on.
It's kind of like a gray area for me too, because a lot of times when I do a little bit of research, I see anywhere in the world. Sometimes I see anywhere in Canada. So it's like a gray area. But at the end of the day, I go with whatever the client dictates to me. I'm not going to be investigating what you declare. But if you declare that you've never had a home, then I will be applying for that rebate. It has nothing to do with me investigating. Do you have a house in somewhere 5 million miles away? I don't know. But the thing is, it depends. What you declare is what matters for me. I don't know for Dammy. So now, talking about first-time home buyers, there are so many people that cannot qualify for mortgages like the traditional way, to be able to get the 5% and all of that. And a lot of people nowadays, especially since the pandemic, they've lost their jobs, so they became self-employed. They started having their own brands, working for themselves. Now it's an issue for them to be able to get a mortgage. So what are the options out there that are available to them?
Yeah, it's a tough group, and yes, you're right. Like once you are self-employed, just the way the system is, the barriers to you being able to qualify for a mortgage is definitely higher. I always say that if you are self-employed, I think just have it in your mind that you need 20% or close. So there are private lending options where you can use to supplement your down payment. There are options with B lenders that will take 20% out. They will actually take your full business income into consideration when qualifying you for a mortgage. But I think self-employed, just have it at the back of your mind that you probably would not be able to qualify with 5% and you will need a lot more to get in. But if you want to get in sooner and you're open to it, there are alternative lending options that you could use to get into the market. But they also have its risk, so you have to really understand the risk, and it really varies from people to people. If you're comfortable with the risk, you can definitely explore that option. But if you're not, you can wait until you qualify.
Okay. So can you tell us one or two options that are out there for business owners, especially maybe for those that don't have 2 years? Because I know that a lot of people, they ask you for 2 years of that business for your taxes that you filed for the business. And let's say I lost my job last year and I started doing my own business, and I'm really desperate to have a mortgage. And let's say I have the 20% down. What are the options that I have?
If you have 20% down and you have at least 6 months in your business, you have a lot of options, really. You can qualify. They are called B lenders. They look at your business bank statement over the last 6 months to 12 months, and they use that income to qualify you for a mortgage. So that's an opportunity to get into the market sooner. I always say if you're self-employed and you're in that category, I would say get into the market, because by the time you wait 2 to 3 years, and even the way you file your taxes, what are the chances that you won't even need more down payment to even get into that? So with 20%, at least 6 months on the job, you can get a mortgage, and your rate is actually still quite decent. It's a little bit higher than standard mortgages, but it's about 0.5 to 1% higher, so it's still a good.
So it's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So my the last one I will ask about self-employed would be, now we just talked about if you have your 20%, you only have, let's say, 6 months of the business and you're able to put that account out. What if you have 6 months, but you don't have 20% down payment? Are there options in that regard?
If you don't have 20, sorry, if you don't have 20% and you have 6 months on the job, there you can still get away with 15%. Your rate to be higher than that person that has 20%. But I think you need at least 15%.
Okay, so now this is the one I was trying to avoid, but somebody just brought it up because it's a whole conversation with that one. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on rent to own? A lot of people don't know about it, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Rent to own, I think, can be a great program if it is well designed. I've seen like very good contract. I would say like you really need to have a real estate agent that understands the value, the trends. You need to have a lawyer review any rent to own agreement. And you also need to work with a mortgage agent so that at the time of qualification, you can actually qualify for a mortgage at that time. So it's not something that you can just get in and then you keep paying this extra money that you think is going towards your down payments. You don't want at the end of the contract and then find out all of a sudden you cannot qualify. But let me back up. Rent to own agreement just means that you find a property, you are renting it, you go into an agreement with the owner, and you are saying that at the end of 1 year or at the end of 2 years, you want to buy this property. At the start of the contract is when you decide on the price. So the advantage of that is, especially in a rising house, when house prices are rising, it means that you get to decide the price way early on, and you can live in the property like you're the owner. So it's kind of best of both worlds. At the end of the contract, you can then exercise the option to buy. So usually you are paying your rent, but you are paying a little bit more. And that portion that you're paying extra on, that portion is going towards your down payment. So that's rent to own. The risk is that if for one reason or the other the market drops, that means that you still have to purchase the property at the price that you bought it. For most contracts I've seen. So that's one risk. The second risk is if at the end of that 2 year term you cannot qualify for a mortgage to then exercise that option to buy, you lose all the extra
Your down payment.
your down payment. So that's why I said that you have to really make sure that it is well designed in the beginning. There could be some clauses that in there that protects you against all of these risks I'm talking about. But I think it could be a good idea. Like if I'm in that situation where, okay, I just don't qualify for a mortgage right now, prices are rising, I can afford to pay a little bit more on my rent, and I don't want to be moving like from place to place, especially when I'm renting. I think that I would explore the option, but I'll just tread very carefully.
Exactly. And one thing to add is, as she said, you freeze. It's like you're putting a freeze on the price of the houses, especially now with how crazy houses are going. The house that was, let's say, 500,000 last year is now 750,000. So you're freezing the price when you enter into that rent to own agreement. And then let's say the agreement took about 3 years. At the end of that 3 years, if the house was 500,000, even though it is now 1 million, you're still going to be paying 500,000 for the house. So it's as good as you're living in your own house, but then later on, you're going to have to make sure you still qualify for everything that you have to qualify to be able to purchase the house. So is your credit history good? Do you have a job? Do you have your down payment and all of that? The only thing that the landlord is getting from you is part payment. Mind you, before you go into that rent own agreement, you still have to give them some down payment as well. So it could be anywhere from 3 to 5% as well. And then monthly, you're paying a particular amount that goes towards your down payment. So if you're not able to qualify for a mortgage at the end of it, which means you cannot buy the house, you're losing all the down payment that you have put down. So as you're already in that rental, you have to be working on everything else. So that's why you have to have a mortgage agent that you're working with, and they're planning with you, in the next 2 years. This is how we can work on your credit history. This is how we can save up on your down payment. This is how make sure you're getting a better job. If your job is only paying 40,000, this is how we can start looking for one that will qualify you for $1 million later. So that's just it's something that you really, really need to read the fine lines in your contract or in your agreement for you to go into a rental home. I hope that answers your question. Okay. I don't know anything about this one, so I hope.
Yes. So for joint ventures, what can we say? For joint ventures, those are pretty much agreement situations where two parties come together to purchase a home together. So in this circumstance, people typically would purchase together in a corporation. So you're opening a corporation, and then let's say me and Fikemi we're buying together. We are directors of that corporation, and then we buy. So for a joint venture investment, typically, if it's your first one, it still has to be, even though we are buying in the corporation's name, it still has to be personally guaranteed. So we are still using our income and our credit to qualify for it. But aside from that, we would also have a joint venture agreement together, and then we are putting out the terms, who is responsible for what happens if I want to exit, you want to stay, what happens if you want to, how do we split the property? So joint venture, most important, I think that it's better to buy in a corporation, but you can buy in your personal names if you want. But you also need a joint venture agreement. There's no like standard universal joint venture agreement. It's pretty much based on, you can have a lawyer advise you, but they will typically enforce what you guys want and how you want to decide on the voting rights of the property, who owns what percentage of the other.
Yeah, I've been able to draft some joint venture agreements in the past, but it's majorly on business, different business, not real estate. So, and most of the time is what you guys agree on that the lawyer will put in there. But the only thing is that the lawyer will be letting you know what are your rights and what are your responsibilities under that agreement. All right. Is there any more questions? Because we're gone a little bit past the time, and I don't know if Dammy has other things that you want to talk about regarding, buying your first home and things like that.
Okay, I can talk a little bit. Buying your first home, if you're new to Canada, there are also some government assistance programs that could be helpful to you. One is the RSP plan. So even if you're not necessarily ready to buy right now, RSP home buyers plan is the program where you can put money towards the RSP. There's a tax advantage to that because you're getting a tax refund. But once you are ready, you can also use that towards your own purchase. And then you have 15 years to actually pay. It's like 15 years to contribute that amount back into your RSP. So that's a really great program where even if you're not ready right now, I'll say you should definitely be taking advantage of that and be saving in that RSP to be able to use it to purchase your home later on. Another program is the one that you mentioned, which is the $4,000 rebate that you get once you purchase your home. There are also some government down payment assistance program. There's a one that is called First Time Home Buyer Incentive. So that's a program where the government is pretty much as shared equity in your house. So they give you 5% down payment on resale homes or 10% down payment on new properties, and you can use that towards your down payment. So that's a great program. So there's a lot of so the market is difficult, but there's also a lot of support out there. Like you just need to make sure you're talking to professionals that have your interest at heart, that really understand and then plan towards it. Because it's not one of those things where you can say, I'm waking up one day. Some people can afford to do that, but for most people, you are planning towards it steadily to say, okay, now in 1 year or in 6 months, I want to buy a house. What should I be doing right now? So if you're in that position, please feel free to reach out and we can have that conversation. And the second group that we are talking about today is self-employed. So also very important that you have that conversation in the beginning, because even apart from your down payment that we've talked about that is important, what is also important is very good record keeping and like good bookkeeping practices, because yes, we can qualify you based on your business bank statement, but you also have to do proper bookkeeping on what your expenses are and what your income is. The better your bookkeeping also makes the process easier. Because another thing I find with self-employed is They don't have any invoice. Most of the money coming into their account is cash. Regardless of how much you're making, if you're getting only cash, it's not traceable. That income cannot be used to qualify. So I would say proper bookkeeping would also help you in the long run if you're self-employed and you're looking to qualify through that means.
That's really important, the bookkeeping part, because a lot of people, especially people from my community, we're used to the ways that we used to do back home, where you offer a service, somebody pays you cash, you just put it in your bag, and then you go grocery shopping right away. You have to have proper, even if it's an Excel sheet where you can keep writing everything that you buy. Like if somebody gives you $500 because you offer them a service, write it. And then there's so many free apps right nowadays that you can use to create invoices just for your own
Yeah.
bookkeeping and records, so that later it will really go a long way to help you as well. And if you are not filing your taxes, that's really important. If you're self-employed, you have to start thinking about that, because those are all the things that they would require for them to be able to qualify you. So if you are interested in any of those programs, either as a self-employed or a first-time home buyer, reach out to Dammy or reach out to me. I will connect you with Dammy. So I think that is all we are going to be doing today. It was a fantastic session. I hope everybody learned one or two things, and the video will be up. You can go back, click on the link to rewatch the program, and then send it to your friends and loved ones that are also looking to purchase a house anytime soon. All right. Thank you so much. It was a fantastic Saturday program, and next month is Black History Month. Whoop whoop. So we're going to be looking into the theme of Black History Month, which is "We Strive, We Thrive." So I'm going to be trying to get speakers. If you know any speaker that you want me to bring on the show, reach out to me and let me know what their address is, like their email address or anything. I will try to reach out to them and see if I can bring them on the show. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Dammy, that I
Thank
came to
you.
you and you came on the show. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's always a lovely pleasure talking to you and also working with you. I'm sure everybody knows that you're a real estate lawyer and you're fantastic. So if you have a home closing, feel free to reach out to her. And if you do, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much and have a lovely day.